And I'll just check that it's not coming up on YouTube though. It still says it's waiting.
It should be fine.
Maybe once YouTube clicks over to 9 o'clock, it'll okay, hang on.
Yeah. Technical issues.
Yeah, okay, it's live now.
Cool. All right. So it's probably just going to be us two today. But if anyone is watching this later, my name is Stef, and I have my husband here, Mark. We're a husband and wife duo, and we live in Adelaide, Australia, and we have our own little activism pursuit together. We are vegans, long-term vegans. I'd say we get to call ourselves long-term vegans by now. I've been vegan for about 12 years. Mark, how long for you?
Probably around 8 years, coming up on 9.
Yep. So we're long-term vegans, and we've been doing a fair bit of activism throughout those years, kind of comes and goes in waves a little bit, but we've done a variety of things like outreach on the street, online stuff through like Facebook and all that. And yeah, now this is our latest thing, I suppose, YouTube. Excited, Mark?
Yeah, pretty excited. It's very new to me. Haven't done any online activism before. Only just, the whole Facebook thing or YouTube comments.
Yeah, it's good to explore different avenues, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll see how we go.
So I guess the purpose of this channel, or our first video, and hopefully we plan to do more after this, is to just have discussions about veganism and different topics within that, animal rights, philosophy, but it's all going to be animal rights based content. That's the purpose of this. So it's just going to be a discussion between me and Mark, just throwing ideas around about different topics each week. So because we feel like we've got a lot to say, don't we, Mark?
Yeah, we talked for about 3 hours yesterday morning, and then probably another 2 hours in the evening. So we figured we might as well share it. If someone gets value out of it or inspired out of it, then I think that's important.
Yeah, we've seen a lot. We've got a lot of thoughts. We're very much interested in not just, veganism as a diet or a lifestyle, but animal rights. And we don't think veganism is just a diet or a lifestyle. But, I guess you get those vegans that treat it as such, whereas we're more interested in animal rights and the philosophy and the ethics and the principles behind it, as well as activism and what's most effective in spreading a clear animal rights message and that kind of thing. So yeah, we feel like we've got a lot to say. So we started up this channel. We'll see how it goes, see if we can be consistent with it. We want to try and aim to do a video each week, and yeah, we'll see how we go.
Yeah, so we're thinking maybe Saturday morning Adelaide time, is that right?
Yes, Saturday morning Adelaide time, probably 9 a.m. Adelaide time.
It'd be good to stream before we do activism, get ourselves in the mood, get ourselves pumped up.
Yeah. We're planning to once a month, after we do our streaming on a Saturday, we'll go to the city and do some street activism. So it's going to be like a whole vegan day. All right. So today's topic is veganism compatible with animal welfarism? So the reason that we I guess, started with this topic is because at the moment, Mark and I and our cousin, Jordan, we're writing an article together about this topic. Is veganism compatible with animal welfarism? And should vegans support animal welfarism? Like, animal welfare pursuits, animal welfare campaigns. So we're writing the article at the moment. Jordan is not vegan, so he's kind of coming at it from his perspective about, what he thinks that, vegans should do, I suppose. It's kind of interesting. But we all agreed, even Jordan, we all agreed that the abolition of the ownership of animals, so the abolition of all animal exploitation, is the end goal and is what will result in the least amount of suffering of sentient beings worldwide. Okay. So we all agreed on that. That's where we want to get. So in the article, we're kind of trying to, I suppose, argue whether welfarism is helpful or not in that pursuit of abolition, and whether vegans, it's mainly about whether vegans should be spending time and energy and resources and taking part in animal welfarism. So we thought Mark and I would just discuss it a little bit today and maybe just get our thoughts out there, and maybe it will help us write the article a little bit as well.
Yeah, and if there's anybody listening out there that has any comments to say, like, we'd love to hear it from different perspectives. I think it's important to get information from all different sources, and different experiences and different information. Like, vegans are the 0.01% of the population, so there's not a lot of data around anything really to do with veganism. I'd say not enough to draw any major conclusions at this stage.
Yeah, and that's a good point because, yeah, I suppose in our article we kind of have to base our opinions and our conclusions, or our claims on just, our opinions and what we believe, as opposed to actual facts, because we just don't know how things are going to play out. We don't really know on a large scale what is kind of helpful or not, but we do have, I guess, a lot of theory a lot of theories to go off of. But yeah, it's a little bit, it's speculation, I suppose. But anyway.
I think the speculation almost is on the abolitionist kind of perspective, because we've had welfare for decades, or maybe even hundreds of years, depending on how you define what welfarism is. But abolition as a strict philosophy is only very new, like in the last 20, 30 years.
So you're saying that we kind of actually know more about how welfarism has played out so far, and so you're saying the speculation is more about, we don't know how an abolitionist approach would play out because we haven't really tried that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, how abolition will interact with the current paradigm. I think the current paradigm is welfare. I think if you ask anybody on the street or anyone, they'll say they care about animals to some degree. That might not always be behavior changes attached with that, but a lot of people, say, yeah, free range eggs is better. Don't go to the rodeo, bullfighting's bad. There's some consideration to animal welfare. So I think that's the current paradigm that's set up. We are just very new in introducing the abolition of the property status and how that's going to interact with the current paradigm.
Yeah, and what abolitionist activism looks like, and it's a really complex issue, I think, as well, because you've got the whole issue of money. So I think the reason that, so I guess what I mean is just that with animal welfare organizations, when they have their welfare campaigns, and when we talk about welfare campaigns, an example is, let's say, to ban the battery cage for egg-laying hens. So I guess with that campaign and all animal welfare campaigns, the word vegan and a vegan message is actively avoided. So the campaign is solely about trying to ban a certain practice in farming or regulate a certain practice, and there's no vegan message attached to it, right? And
If there is a vegan message, it's usually like to just add on as a footnote. And often not as something that's imperative, something that's like, oh, if you want to do a little bit extra, like we want to ban the cages, but if you want to do that little bit more, that's up to you. We're not going to force you, but it's very soft. Like you can go vegan if you like. I think that's designed to catch the vegans though.
Yeah, but the thing is that information usually, like, you'll find it on their website maybe as like a footnote, like you said, but it's not in the campaign. Like none of the campaign materials that are being like actively promoted contain that information at all, and they just simply avoid a vegan message. And I think that's because most of their donors, the people who donate to them, are non-vegans. So I think that a vegan message is actively avoided in animal welfare campaigns because they might not want to put off their non-vegan donors. So I think that the whole money donation kind of thing, I think, corrupts animal organizations a little bit, and they may compromise the vegan message in order to try and get those donations. So they're essentially picking the low-hanging fruit. What campaign can we create that is going to be feasible to achieve in the animal industry, and that's going to get the most people on board to donate and to promote the campaign. So they're trying to cast a wide net and get not only vegans, not only vegetarians, but all non-vegans to be on board with this campaign. So I think that it's in that way it's kind of corrupting. They can't promote veganism as a moral baseline, because that will conflict with what they're trying to do. So that's, I think, a major problem.
Yeah, for sure. I guess the question then comes: do those campaigns eventually lead to abolition? Do you think that you can somehow use those campaigns or make use of those campaigns to end the property status of animals, if that's our agreed goal? And I think that's our assumption, that would lead to the best outcomes, to not own other beings. I think we recognize that's not ideal in any way, shape, or form. Like I feel like there's almost a scale of animal welfare with minute changes to quite drastic changes, but I feel like there's a limit to how much welfare you can kind of provide animals. And I don't think that the end of that, if you look at it as a continuum, I don't think the end of it is abolition. I think they have to make some kind of jump, because welfare is, we still can use animals.
Do you think, I know we're 14 minutes in and we haven't really defined our terms yet. Do you think maybe we should define our terms?
Okay.
Okay. So just in case there's anyone that comes back and watches this later and has no idea what the hell we're talking about.
Which is very likely.
All right. So firstly, veganism. Veganism is an ethical philosophy, a principle that rejects all animal exploitation and unnecessary harm to animals. That's the foundation of it, right? So then vegans, because they believe in this principle, they avoid as far as they possibly can, within the constraints of our society, to avoid using animals in any way. So for food, for clothing, for entertainment, cosmetics, household products, we try and avoid using animals in any way possible, because we think that using animals is wrong, because animals are not resources. They are sentient beings just like us. So that's veganism. Let's do abolition next. Abolitionism is, I would say, very closely linked to veganism, and I kind of think that you can't really be a vegan truly in your soul, in your heart, if you are not abolitionist. So abolitionism is the principle of rejecting the property status of animals because it recognizes that when an animal is property, like the private property of humans, chattel property, that in itself is exploitative. To be property of someone is to be essentially treated like an object with, external value, and treated like a resource, a commodity. So to be property is to be all those things. So abolition is all about trying to abolish the property status of animals because them being property is exploitative. So I think abolitionism, veganism, like it goes hand in hand, and you kind of have to like be both, I think. But maybe that can be another video. We discuss that in more depth, because some vegans, I guess, some people who call themselves vegan are not abolitionists, or they say that they're not abolitionists. So anyway, that can be another video.
Oh, I want to get into that right now.
No.
It would help define the terms, right?
All right, the third term is animal welfarism. So animal welfarism refers to the principle and I guess the actions of trying to regulate farming practices, or not just farming, but I suppose the ways that we exploit animals, the ways that we use animals, it's trying to like regulate that to make it more ethical or more humane or that kind of rubbish. I'm not biased at all. So I guess that the underlying principle of animal welfarism is that it's okay to use animals. It doesn't challenge the property status of animals. It doesn't challenge the use of animals at all. It promotes that, like, it's okay to use animals. We just need to do it the right way, or the ethical way, or as humanely as possible. So that's kind of the animal welfare position. So animal welfare campaigns are focused on trying to ban like specific farming practices that are seen as more cruel, or regulate, make sure the industries are like following the law, the animal welfare laws, and they do stuff like that. So do you think that's a good definition of terms, Mark?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good to start with.
Okay, cool. So hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully that gives people a bit more of an idea of what we're talking about here today. So should we maybe I'll bring up the article, but not on the screen. Like I'll just be looking at it, because I don't actually know how to bring it up on the screen yet. I'm still learning how to use all this software. But I'll bring it up for myself, and I don't know if you want to do the same, Mark, like while we're talking here, so that we can like refer to it and we can kind of go through the different points.
I can try. So we're just really going to go through it and not it out, are we?
Or just to like have a bit of a base to come back to and refer to. I don't know. You don't have to bring it up, but I will. Can you see me still?
Yeah, I can still see you.
Okay, cool. All right. So I'm looking at the article right now. Okay, so basically the article
is a work in progress. So we will finish and publish soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just kind of trying to get our thoughts out there and get some different perspectives.
Yeah. Okay, so so the basis of the article is, should vegans support animal welfare campaigns? Let me just have a look. Okay, so maybe I can just go through some of Jordan's arguments on the for side, that vegans should support animal welfare campaigns. Actually, no. Firstly, I'll just start off with like things that we all agreed on. So we all agreed suffering is bad. We all agreed that most animals, especially the ones that humans consume and use on a daily basis, are, these are Jordan's words, more than likely sentient, i.e. capable of suffering. We would endorse actions that minimize the net suffering of all sentient beings across time. I think that's really key. And we all agree that the abolition of the property status of animals will lead to lower net suffering of sentient beings. Now, this article is kind of like based on like a utilitarian kind of lens about reducing suffering, lowest net suffering, maximizing well-being, that kind of thing. So it's based on that kind of utilitarian lens. But maybe in another video, Mark and I might plan to discuss that in itself and the merits of utilitarianism versus other ideologies. But anyway, just
to bring up kind of, I think that's an important point that we've kind of outlined the points that we agree on from the outset. And if you are interested in doing activism on the street, like offline or even online, I think that's an important skill to be able to do, is to come to some common ground with whoever you're talking to about like agreeing to those points. Like, do we both agree that suffering is bad? Do we both all agree that animals are sentient, capable of suffering? I think that's a good way to build rapport. So yeah, just like a side note for activism.
Yeah. All right, good point. Okay, so then Jordan has written that the crux of our disagreement, us versus Jordan, comes down to, do we think that efforts to improve animal welfare increase or decrease their suffering across time? Now, I think that a really key thing here is that we're not just talking about the outcomes of the welfarist campaigns, right? Like, so obviously we all agree that less suffering is better than more suffering. And so it's not the regulations themselves that we're like opposed to or against, because like we do concede that sometimes in some cases the things that the welfarists are campaigning for, whatever regulations or banning of certain practices that they're campaigning for, may result in, like, the practices themselves, the change in the practices themselves may result in slightly less suffering for animals, right? So
Can we have an example of that? Like what that would look like?
God.
Can I give you the hypothetical that I gave you yesterday about if we had a referendum, like a secret ballot? Everybody in Australia had a secret ballot, and on that ballot it said, we are going to increase the size of egg-laying hens' cages by 50%, which will reduce suffering by X amount. Are you for this, against this? Like, if you were kind of put in a situation where you were deciding whether to increase the welfare standards and hypothetically lower the suffering or not support it, which would you choose?
Yeah, so if it was a completely isolated thing,
Yeah.
like you got a text message on your phone, vote yes or no. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like vote.
Yeah.
So what did you give an example, or battery? Are we going to
increasing the size of cages?
Oh, increasing the size of cage. Yeah. So we could even do like ban the battery cage, seeing as that's an example that I used before and that I've kind of used in the article. So you get a text on your phone, yes or no, should we ban battery cages? And that's all. Right.
Yeah,
so
that's all. Yeah.
Maybe we would choose yes to ban the battery cage. I don't know. What would you choose?
Yeah, I guess I would say yes, because it's reducing suffering. So yeah, I guess the idea is we are supporting welfare changes, but I guess what the question is, do we support the welfare campaigns themselves?
Yeah.
Is that
So
kind of
that's
what you're getting at next?
Yeah, that was the point I was getting to. So
Yeah.
it's not just about the regulations themselves. It's about everything that goes with the campaigns around them, and the consequences of all that, and also whether we should be putting our time, money, energy, resources into that kind of stuff as opposed to, an abolitionist message. So I think that's an important, interesting point. Maybe I'll start with Jordan's side. So even though I don't think he's quite finished it yet, but some of the points that he's made is that he believes that completely abolishing animal exploitation is an ambitious goal, and it might not be achievable in the short term, which, look, practically I would agree with. Like, yeah, I don't really see us abolishing all animal ownership and exploitation in the short term with the way things are going. So he says, in the meantime, supporting animal welfare improvements can or might reduce the suffering of millions of animals currently in exploitative situations. So, yeah, I guess he thinks of it as like in the short term or currently, but we need to keep in mind that often the changes that are like campaigned for can take a decade or more to actually like come into effect, if they even do. But yeah, so that's one of his points, is it's practicality, I suppose.
On that, we often criticize abolitionists for their high-reaching goals, and nothing's going to be done in the short term. That's why abolition is ineffective. But we did as we did a bit of research yesterday into like the sow stalls, decades, like even welfare campaigns and any often minute changes that are not even regulated take decades.
Yeah, that's right. I want to maybe I want to go through that sow stall example. Like, I don't know whether to do that now or later. Maybe I'll just do it a little bit later when we've gone through the rest of Jordan's points. Okay, the next point that he's made is about the animal welfare campaigns build awareness and empathy. So that, I guess, the campaigns can raise public awareness about the conditions that animals face and foster greater empathy towards them. And that this in itself, this increase in awareness can be a stepping stone to more people adopting veganism or supporting abolitionism. All right. Are we like doing a rebuttal to Jordan's points as we go along, or should I just read the rest of his points?
Oh, yeah, we can rebuttal if you want. Like, you just share your thoughts on where you're currently at.
And let's just acknowledge that this is completely unfair to Jordan because he doesn't have an opportunity to reply.
Yeah, we banned him from the page. No, just kidding.
But we'll try our best not to straw man his arguments. We want to try and accurately represent them. That's why I'm kind of reading off the paper a little bit. But yeah.
I'm happy to play devil's advocate if you need me. I've been told I need to state that I'm playing devil's advocate before I do, though. So maybe I'll do a quick disclaimer.
I think that's a smart idea. Okay, so the point about building awareness and empathy. Any thoughts on that?
Can you build awareness and empathy without using a welfare message? Maybe. Like, is there an alternative?
Yeah, and something that I was thinking of as well is that, like, yeah, I do think that they can build some amount of awareness, I guess, for the plight of animals by showing. Often they might show footage or images that are quite disturbing of usually like factory farms. So to that extent, yeah, I think it can build awareness. But like you said, I do think we can do that with a vegan message attached. I don't think it has to be with an animal welfare message attached. But the other point that I was, you know what? It's escaping me. What was the other point I was going to make? What was it, Mark?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. I remember now. So the other thing I was going to say about that is that I think in terms of like raising people's empathy. I think actually, because animal welfare campaigns, they're like the low-hanging fruit. I think it's actually more the other way around. Like they're banking on people already having like that empathy and already caring about animals. Like I don't know if animal welfare campaigns in themselves cause people to care about animals more. I think it's like they know that people care about animals. They know that people, think that animals matter morally, and so they're using that to try and like get support for their campaigns, and so I don't know if it
Yeah.
works that way around as opposed to trying to increase empathy for animals. I think maybe it's more like they know that people care about animals, so they're banking on that to get donations and try and further their campaigns.
So are you saying that they're leveraging people's already held beliefs, but they're not challenging any beliefs? Like they're not
Yeah,
taking
precisely.
their empathy to a new standard or a new high. They're
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
I mean, yeah, maybe it could be argued, devil's advocate, that if someone cares about one issue, let's just say rodeos. There's a non-vegan who really cares about rodeos. They don't like seeing people ride horses and doing all crazy things. If then they come into new information, say there's footage from a slaughterhouse, they might extend that similar empathy for horses to also a different species of animal. Would you count that as extending your empathy or raising empathy?
Yeah, I guess so.
So rather than increasing empathy for an individual species, it might be like bridging the gap between another species.
True. Yeah.
But again, can you do this without a welfare campaign?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, and I guess the other thing, it does kind of come down to money, because it's like, all right, we know that the welfare approach is I think it's very effective in getting money, so that these organizations can advertise and be in the media and get a big platform, because I think most of their money comes from non-vegans. So I guess, yeah, that's one of my concerns, is like, can we, get the same reach using an abolitionist message? Well, we're going to cut out a lot of the donor base to do that.
Yeah.
But
That
anyway,
would be so interesting is when if you do a donation, you have to click a button whether you're vegan or not. And then
only donate if you're vegan.
yeah, then charities and organizations can clearly see who their donor base is. I mean, I'm sure they have data to show
Well, I know
at
so
least
many
estimate
non-vegans.
that information.
Yeah, I know so many non-vegans that like donate to Animals Australia and stuff, and that's another problem with it, is that they do kind of tell people that you don't have to be vegan, but you can just donate to us if you care about animals. That's a huge problem.
Yeah, you can donate to me. I don't care if you're not vegan. Do we actually prefer to take non-vegans' money? Is that no?
Yeah, probably put it towards vegan stuff.
Yeah, we can use
But
any non-vegan donations to put towards vegan advocacy.
I have a feeling, though, that they're not going to be as willing to donate to us.
If they know what it's going towards.
Yeah, exactly.
The irony of donating to an organization that's trying to change your behavior. It's a bit
Yeah,
circular, isn't
a
it?
bit hypocritical. Yeah. All right. Let's go to the next point of Jordan's. So we've covered two of them. There are three more. Okay. Next point: encouraging industry change. When welfare improvements are supported, it can encourage industries to invest more in alternative practices that could eventually lead to reduced dependence on animal exploitation. I feel like I maybe need some examples of that. Like he might be
Yeah.
planning to put that in later, but reduce dependence on animal. Why would an industry put in a practice that would reduce dependence on animal exploitation? I'm not really
Yeah,
sure
that
what it means. Do you know
wouldn't
what it
make
means?
Yeah, that sounds like the end goal of the business is to put themselves out of business.
Maybe we can kind of skip past that
Yeah.
one for now a little bit.
Can we write that down as something to have his thoughts more on that?
Yeah. The next one I think is interesting because I kind of am arguing the opposite, the exact opposite. The next one is ethical consistency. So he says that from an ethical standpoint, if one values reducing suffering, then supporting welfare improvements aligns with this value. It acknowledges that while the ultimate goal is abolition, lessening suffering in the present is also important. Now, what I have to say about that is that the thing is with welfare campaigns is that they don't acknowledge that abolition is the ultimate goal. They kind of say the opposite, and so that's something. But also this idea of like, if one values reducing suffering, then supporting welfare improvements aligns with this value. Well, I guess we can get to our arguments later, but we're kind of arguing the opposite. That maybe, like, we concede that maybe in the short term, some suffering might be reduced through animal welfare campaigns, but in the long term, because it's not leading to abolition, and because it's probably prolonging getting to abolition, it's creating more suffering in the long term, or at least it's not going to quickly get us to abolition. But anyway, so he's saying ethical consistency. If you care about reducing suffering, then you should support welfare campaigns. But we're kind of arguing the opposite. If you want to be ethically consistent and you're an abolitionist vegan, you're not going to support a campaign that is saying, that it's okay to use animals if it's just more humane.
Yeah, I mean, that's our premise, right? It's not okay to use animals. So if you're supporting campaigns that encourage the use of animals, it's nonsensical. I guess bringing back to what we've already discussed is are we supporting the welfare practices, the change in practices, or the campaigns? Like, I think they're two very different things.
Yeah.
Like if we were to put time and energy and put our stamp of approval on the government saying, hey, it's okay to use chickens, let's just make their cages bigger. And if vegans are like, yeah, that's great, I think that's just completely at odds with our goals. If the government went ahead with that referendum and said, okay, we're going to make the cages bigger, yes or no, then I think we would still support that. So you would support the changes without actually supporting the ideology.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm wording that correctly.
Yeah. And we have a comment.
Oh my goodness, our first comment.
Yay. Hi, Stef and Mark. Thanks for this video. I found it so insightful so far. Oh, thank you.
Do you have if you have any questions, please shoot them our way.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear if you have any thoughts about any of the content so far. But yeah, thanks for your comment and thanks for watching.
And if you want to play devil's advocate, just let us know.
Yeah, we're trying to create, I think both of us, Mark, I guess you'd agree, we're very, we try to be very level in all of our activism. We don't kind of use like inflammatory language. We don't attack people. We kind of approach things. We try to be rational and, logical and empathetic, I suppose, but also unapologetic. So we don't compromise our vegan message, but our activism is always very respectful, and we don't have any interest in being rude to people and that kind of thing. So yeah, we want to create a safe space for vegans and I guess non-vegans as well who want to be part of these videos or comment or ask questions. And
yeah. Can I just tangent on that when you said empathy? I think I can feel empathy for people that support welfare campaigns for two reasons. The first one is there's only currently welfare campaigns. Like, there's not much of an alternative. there's no big businesses or anything like that. A lot of the abolition campaigns are grassroots. It's talking to people in the public. It's online activism. I think it's more difficult because you can't just throw your money at it. Like, welfare campaigns are really well set up for people to have minimal input, minimal energy spent. So I can understand people not wanting to let go of welfare campaigns. So I'm definitely empathetic in that case. The other case is when I went vegan, I went straight to the welfare campaigns. I was there holding signs saying, ban jumps racing. And I think both of us, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but we try and just figure out what's most effective for the animals. I think we need to frame this as what's effective for the animals outside of our own ego. And not get attached to any one idea. Like, if we, through writing this paper, it comes out that no, it's actually more effective to support animal welfare campaigns, like, I think that's what we should do. Or if there's a third alternative, if we come into some new knowledge, I think we need to be open to that always. Because we can't assume that what we're doing right now is the best.
Yeah. True.
I think that's quite audacious.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we genuinely want to do what we think is best for animals, and so we're not, we don't have an alternative agenda, or we're not so rigid in our beliefs that we would just reject something for the sake of it without evidence. So I think at the moment, obviously, we're both abolitionists. We both think that the best thing for animals is to promote an unequivocal, clear abolitionist vegan message and not welfare stuff. So that's where we're at the moment. But yeah, I guess in any of our beliefs, in any aspect of life, we're not so rigid that we agree with science as well. The whole, looking for evidence and, basing your beliefs and actions and opinions off of evidence as far as you possibly can, rather than just trying to hold on to a belief because that's what you've always done,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that got us.
And I think when we first went vegan, I think we both kind of engaged in welfarism because that was kind of the default. Like, we didn't know anything different, and that's still the paradigm, and that's Animals Australia is still like the biggest animal organization in Australia. It's kind of it was kind of just the default. And then it was only when we started to do more research and question things more than we changed our views again.
Yeah. How can we be more effective for animals?
Yeah. All right, let's keep going because we'll probably just be here for like another 15 minutes. Yeah. Okay, Jordan's last point, supporting, strategic advocacy is his point. Supporting welfare improvements doesn't have to detract from the ultimate goal of abolition. It can be a strategic part of advocacy, making the movement more palatable and understandable to the general public, which can be crucial for gaining wider support. Now, I guess for that one, I would just say, I guess when I go next to our side of things, it'll become clear why we kind of maybe disagree with that a little bit, because we think that welfarism is actually conflicting with the goal of abolition and counterproductive to the goal of abolition. So I think we can just go on to the next part now. All right. So should we just move on to our side of the argument now?
Yeah, press on. Yeah.
All right. So I've kind of written this part. All right. So I might just read some of it, paraphrase. All right. So we all agreed on the premise that abolishing the property status for animals will lead to lower net suffering, using a utilitarian kind of framework. The central point of our argument, that is the argument of myself and Mark, is that we believe that vegans actively supporting animal welfare campaigns is counterproductive to this pursuit of abolition, thereby inhibiting the goal of reducing suffering in the long term. So what we mean by vegans actively supporting animal welfare campaigns, we mean creating the campaigns, actively promoting the campaigns, sharing them around on social media, handing out flyers, attending rallies or protests, signing petitions, submitting letters to Parliament, and donating to organisations running the campaigns. So that's what we mean by supporting all of those things. So we think that is counterproductive to the pursuit of abolition and thereby inhibiting the goal of abolition and reducing suffering in the long term. So why do we believe that vegans engaging in animal welfarism and supporting these campaigns is counterproductive to abolition? I'm just looking at the article.
That's okay. While you look for that, it's just, ideologically, I suppose it doesn't quite line up. We're kind of trying to match up two different puzzle pieces. Like, if vegans think it's not okay or it brings the best results to not use animals, and then welfare is in direct confliction with that and saying it's okay to use animals, but we just need to do it more kindly. I think it's just we're trying to connect dots that don't really line up.
So that is the first point that I've got written here. Sorry, I was just kind of trying to skim through it because I don't want to read it word for word, but again, maybe it's just easy to do that. But
it's intellectually confusing. Maybe if that's veganism intellectually confusing.
Yeah, they're two separate messages, and it's confusing. It's inconsistent. So the first point, the welfarist position conflicts with the abolitionist vegan position. So the welfarist position is that it's okay to own animals. It doesn't challenge that at all. It's okay to own and use animals, but we just need to make our treatment of them more humane. So when people campaign, let's just say to ban a particular practice, let's just say battery cages for egg-laying hens. So when they campaign to ban the battery cage, they're implicitly endorsing whatever the alternative is and making that alternative seem like it's morally acceptable. So Animals Australia, they might say, if you care about hens, help us ban the battery cage. It's a horrible, cruel practice, right? That's what they're saying. So not only are they condemning the use of battery cages, but they are implicitly endorsing whatever that alternative is. Let's assume that it's free-range eggs, right? That's the alternative battery cage, I suppose, or barn-laid or free-range or whatever they call it.
Yeah, can I share my personal experience on that? Would be jumps racing. Like when I first went vegan, going out to the racetrack, holding up signs saying ban jumps racing. And then I guess I had that epiphany, right? I was standing there thinking, okay, if we ban jumps racing, if the manager comes out today and says, oh yeah, sorry, you're right, this is not good for the animals, they're suffering because jumps causes X amount of injuries, we're going to ban jumps racing today, well done, pat me on the back, nice job. Am I going to have to come out tomorrow to protest just general horse racing? Or am I saying that that's okay? Once they ban jumps racing, we're going to leave them alone. Because we're kind of if we're saying ban jumps racing, we're saying that normal racing is morally acceptable, right?
Yeah, it's implying that, isn't it? There's jumps racing is this horrible, cruel thing. Well, what about all the other racing? Is that better then? Is it, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
That's what they're implying. Yeah, so that's right. So going on with my banning the battery cage example, if they actually do manage to achieve, the goal of banning the battery cage, mind you, usually it can take decades to actually implement this kind of thing. But anyway, the organizations will celebrate until the cows come home.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. They really make a big deal of it. They thank their donors profusely for being so kind to animals, by donating to them to help the hens. They use it as promotional material. And And so, yeah, I guess underneath it all, there's this implicit, and, by making a big deal of it, like, oh, you're being so kind to hens for doing this, it's implying that, like, free-range eggs, the alternative, are good, ethical, humane, and that in itself conflicts with the abolitionist vegan message, right? Because we're there trying to say, there's no humane farming, like, all of it's horrible, like, and we shouldn't be focusing on, like, slightly kind of changing the practices to make people feel better about, using animals. So
Do you know who should be doing that? Do you know who should be advocating for welfare changes?
Tell me, Mark.
Industries. Like, if we come into footage of cruel practices and people are outraged, the ones who should be trying to smooth things over, I think, should be industry. I think they are the ones that should be saying, this is not good that this has come out. We need to make our consumer base comfortable buying our product. So we need to go into damage control, smooth it over, change our practices, make this a little bit better, make it more palatable.
That's kind of what's happening though, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's driven by the vegans are the ones that are driving the campaigns.
Right.
Like,
yes.
the vegans are the ones, like, it's kind of ironic. It's like they're showing how bad the industry is and then telling the industry how to clean it up.
Yeah, so that
and
is
make
one
the consumers feel better. It's
yeah. That is one argument, right? Isn't it? Like, I guess a part of our argument is just leave all the welfarist stuff to the non-vegans, right? Because they'll do it anyway. And they have been doing it anyway. It's largely supported and run by non-vegans. Just let them and the industries do that stuff, right? We as vegans, as abolitionists, we don't need to be creating these campaigns ourselves and, supporting these campaigns ourselves. We need to put all the time and energy and money that we have into vegan activism, abolitionist activism, spreading that message out there. And, if we're not going to do it, if the vegans who, are abolitionists are not going to do that, and they're choosing to just focus on welfare campaigns, then who's going to do it? We have to get that message out there eventually for it to happen. Like, let's just start now. Let's, just focus on abolitionists, grassroots vegan activism. Let the non-vegans do the welfare stuff if that's what they want to do,
Yeah, like, when footage of animal cruelty comes out, imagine if the response of the public was like, this is terrible, do something about it. And we went, well, you can go vegan. Like, if you don't like it, go vegan. And the industry was the one like, whoa. Like, we don't want to lose all these customers. Like, we need to do something to try and convince our customers to still continue to contribute to this stuff. And they were the ones running these campaigns. Like, can you imagine the dairy industry running a campaign, or the egg industry running a ban cages like advocacy? Like that's how it should be. You should be trying to clean up your own industry.
Yeah.
Like,
and
if someone's against,
Go. And in Australia, I was going to say, in Australia, Farm Transparency Project is maybe an example of a group that is run by vegans, created by vegans, and they are, choosing to use that, all the investigations they do and their platform, they're choosing to use that to promote a welfarist message. And you rarely see them talk about veganism at all, like in their media and stuff. On their website, and here's the thing, like, they do state in places that they think that, all that they are kind of abolitionists, right? But that's not what they're getting across to the public, like with this banning gassing pigs, as a stunning method in Victoria. That whole campaign, like, nowhere will you see them mention veganism, at least not that I've seen. It's all just about, being kind to pigs by banning gas chambers. Okay, well, what's the alternative then? Because you're implying that gas chambers are so horrible, and whatever the alternative is going to be great. That's the message I get anyway. I don't know. I think it's a very confusing message because they're trying to be like vegan and abolition, kind of like in some places on their website and stuff, but then they're trying to be welfarist at the same time, and it's just like it's not matching up.
Yeah, like, and I think we need to keep trying to give people the alternative option. I think I haven't really thought about how I feel about all this footage and all that kind of stuff, and I don't know how much energy and time is going into collect this footage. But let's just assume it's good. Like, transparency is good for industry. They've come across this video footage that shows pigs being gassed. What should an abolitionist vegan do with that information? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I wish that, Christelle Force and the people behind Farm Transparency, I wish that they would use their footage to, like put it out there and then just have this message. Like, if you think that this is wrong, like be vegan, because the whole reason these animals are here in the first place is because people aren't vegan. I wish that that's what they would do. But again, maybe my skeptical self is, I think that it could be about money, if they get donations and stuff from non-vegans, having a vegan message is just going to hurt that for them, I suppose. We have a comment I just want to show.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Seems like a major issue with welfarism is that it is not as bold as abolitionism with respect to vegan ideals. As a result, it doesn't explicitly challenge the cognitive dissonance in non-vegans. Yeah, I think that's right. That's right. It's not as bold. It's welfarism. It's way more palatable. Again, I think it's mostly aimed at non-vegans. It's like, hey, if you care about animals, you don't have to be vegan, but you just have to, sign our petition. It's not asking a lot. It's not asking anything really of non-vegans. So yeah, it's not as bold. It's not asking people to change. So yeah, and as a result, it doesn't explicitly challenge the cognitive dissonance in non-vegans. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it doesn't, because it's not asking them to. It's not saying that what you're doing is wrong. So yeah, you're right. It doesn't challenge their cognitive dissonance at all. It's not saying what you're doing is wrong. It's just saying, hey, just help us, make it. Yeah, it's putting the blame on the industry. It's saying what the industry is doing is wrong, not you guys, the industry.
How disempowering to people.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing I want to improve on my activism when I'm talking to people in the street, is empowering the consumer. Like, if you think this is wrong, you can do something about this.
Yeah.
And it's easier than other social issues. Like, it's easier than all these political issues overseas. It's easier than climate change. Like, you can directly choose to not purchase these products three times a day. Like, you are so empowered to make such dramatic changes in those areas.
Yeah.
It's just like, instead of me being empowered to make decisions and being empowered to make change, I'm going to ask the industry to
we'll
do
try
them
and
nicely.
try and get the government to do something about it, and yeah, that can feel very disempowering, I
Don't
think, as
people
well.
hate the government? Did I miss the memo that people like trust the government? Did I miss that memo?
Well, depends who you ask. But yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. It's very disempowering to put all of the control in the hands of the government and the industries to like make changes, as opposed to the people. Like, every time we go to the supermarket, we make a choice. Do I, buy this thing? Do I buy lentils, or do I buy a steak? Or like, it's literally in our hands, and it's across all issues, human and non-human. It's one of the things that we really do have the most control over to make direct changes. So I think that's another beautiful thing about veganism. It's very empowering. Wherever you put your dollar, you have power, and I think it's empowering to be vegan.
At the risk of cutting this interview short, is our time limit going to run out at exactly 60 minutes?
There's no time limit. We just said that we would just
Okay.
go.
I was just worried you were going to be mid-rant and it was going
Yeah.
to just cut the feed.
Oh yeah, no. There's no. We just said we would go for about an hour, and it has been about an hour now, so we'll probably wrap up. But yeah, it's not. There's no preset time limit, and it's not going to cut us off. Yeah, so we can do our wrap up. So yeah, okay. I think we went through the article pretty well. There's probably like a couple of other points that I tried to make in this article that I haven't talked heaps about, but you know what? I think we've talked a lot about the issue. We've made some really good points. And you know what?
What do you think his strongest point is?
Jordan's strongest point?
Yeah, like if it's good to support welfare campaigns, what do you think the most likely thing is to undo our arguments is going to be?
So first, I'll just say I think that's something that because I guess Jordan's not vegan, and I guess he hasn't really been part of like the movement and maybe not been like observing things throughout the years like we have. So I think that he's kind of just looking at from completely like a pragmatic view of, the outcomes of the regulations, the outcomes of the campaigns, rather than the campaigns themselves. And I think whereas we're kind of looking at why the campaigns themselves are problematic in the way that they're being promoted and the messages that they're sending and the messages that they're not sending, which is, a vegan message. So yeah, I think, I can see where he's coming from, and I think his points about it reduces suffering in the short term. I can see that. I can see, and like I said, I can concede that maybe they do reduce some suffering. I think it's very minimal though, and I think there's still a lot of problems with that. And I was gonna kind of use sow stalls as an example, but maybe we can talk about that next time. But when I was looking at his points, I kind of highlighted as the main convincing point for me was about building awareness and empathy. So, I do think because organizations like Farm Transparency and Animals Australia, kind of that promote welfare campaigns, they do get a lot of donations. And so they do have a really big platform and they do get a lot of reach. And so I think that they do create a lot of awareness. So I think that is a point that has merit. The only thing that we, I guess disagree with about it is that they're creating awareness. They've got this big platform, but what they're doing with it is not promoting abolition or veganism. They're promoting more humane exploitation. So, but I think the raising awareness, I think maybe that's the point that has the most merit for me, maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we almost wouldn't have these organizations without the welfare campaigns. But who knows, like in an alternative universe where we see something horrible and want to stop contributing to it rather than just changing its method slightly, maybe we would have massive abolitionist organizations. Who knows? We can't really predict that. So it's kind of predicated on the fact that we have welfare organizations because we have, let's say, successful welfare campaigns, whatever that might be. But it's kind of a train that you can't get off now. Like, if they do go, yeah, all right, welfare campaigns are bad, then it's a business. It'll collapse. So that they kind of tied themselves to this ideology. Like, it's very hard to get off that bandwagon.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, shall we wrap up there then?
Sure. All right.
Get on with the rest of our day. To whoever is watching this, thank you for watching and hope that it was, got something out of it. We'll be back next Saturday. We did Sunday today because we were busy yesterday, but we'll try and be back next Saturday, 9 a.m. for another stream.
Yeah, and if anybody, thanks Chaos 30. I think I know who you are.
Chaos 30.
And thanks No Name. if you do have any more questions, or if you have any rebuttals to anything that we're missing, like if there's a blind spot that we're missing, we do have a Facebook page, or comment, send us a message or something. That'd be great.
Yes. All right. Bye, everyone.
See ya.